I'm the Policy Studies Director at the Kroc Institute at the University of Notre Dame. And I got my start in peace issues in an unusual way. I was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. And during that experience in the war, I came to realize how unjust and cruel and illegal that particular war was, and I spoke out against the war as an active duty soldier, became part of the GI peace movement during the late 60s and early 70s. And that made me committed to peace, and I just became committed through the rest of my life to work for the prevention of war, and I've been doing that ever since. And for many years I was the executive director of SANE, the Committee for a Sane Nuclear Policy in Washington, working on nuclear weapons issues. And then for the last 25 years I've been involved with the University of Notre Dame Peace Studies program, and also was a director and now chair of the board of the Fourth Freedom Forum. And in that capacity at the Fourth Freedom Forum, I got to meet Ben Ferencz, who was part of our advisory council, our advisory group. And we would meet each year in Florida for a consultation, and was impressed to learn about Ben, to hear his remarkable life story, and especially deeply moved by his perspective on the need to outlaw war. That there is no legal justification for almost all uses of force, and that we should be building a society that is ruled not by the law of force, but by the force of law, as he used to say. A very good slogan, and one that I've always tried to fulfill in my life. Now I'm teaching and organizing research projects and doing various practitioner activities at the University of Notre Dame at our Peace Studies Center there. And in that work I've come to really appreciate how much support there is for a war prevention and peace building perspective, even within the US military. People often think, mistakenly, that those who are in the military like war, that they are driving us towards more war. That's completely contrary to my own experience. Most officers in the military and men in the military, women, do not want to be involved in these wars. They go because they are ordered to do so. They are in the military because they may need the job, they may need the professional training, maybe it's part of their family tradition, but they're certainly not warmongers in the main. And in fact, they've experienced war up front and in personal terms, and they know better than the rest of us how futile war can be. And I've noticed, especially over the last 10, 15 years, people in the military have recognized that they faced failure in Iraq, in Afghanistan. The 2011 intervention in Libya has led to disaster in that country and in the region. Over and over again, the military has faced an experience of being called upon, being ordered by our national leaders to enter into wars that have no strategic merit, that are essentially unwinnable, and where our own military intervention actually contributes to the problem. Look at Iraq. I mean, yes, we wanted to get rid of Saddam Hussein, a cruel dictator, but then what? We created chaos. A huge insurgency arose against our presence, against our occupation. We fought a horrific war for years. More than 4,000 American soldiers died, tens of thousands of Iraqis. Eventually, the threat from Al-Qaeda subsided, but in its place, we've seen the rise of ISIS, kind of an evil stepchild of Al-Qaeda, even more dangerous. And as we know, most of the senior military leaders of ISIS were former military commanders of the Iraqi army. So our intervention created this chaos from which an evil force like ISIS was able to emerge. In Afghanistan, it's been 15 years of military involvement. We're still there. We have about 10,000 troops, and they're talking constantly about bringing in more. For what? We've been unable to suppress the Taliban. The Taliban is actually stronger today than it was 10 years ago. And if you look carefully at what motivates these fighters, often it's because they want to get rid of the external forces in their country, which is us. And they mistakenly believe that the United States is intending to crush their religion, is waging war on Islam. Of course that's not our intention. We try carefully not to do that, but that's the way it's perceived in these countries in which we become involved. So I've learned that our whole foreign policy is fundamentally unjust, it's counterproductive, and then we need to turn toward a conflict prevention orientation to recognize that we can achieve our national objectives best by working to address the underlying conditions that give rise to violent extremism, that cause the rise of these dangerous insurgency groups. We can't do it through so-called kinetic or military operations. And the more we seek to pursue military solutions, the more we seem to actually create the very danger that we're supposedly trying to suppress. So we need a different approach completely. That's what we try to do at the Kroc Institute at Notre Dame. That's what we do in our partnership with Ben Ferencz and the Planethood Foundation. And it's the necessary purpose, I think, for trying to build genuine security and peace for our country and for the world.